Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. This is your host, Howard Fox, and the Outdoor Adventure Series celebrates individuals, families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Our guest today is my good friend, David McIlvaney. David is an award-winning New York-based outdoor enthusiast and writer. He helps outdoor brands communicate with their customers. He's also an essayist on fly fishing. David is also a member of the Outdoor Writers Association of America, the OWAA. This is where I met David. And he's also a board member of the New York City chapter of Trout Unlimited. David, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Howard. How are you, man? It's good to see you again.
It is always good to see you, and I especially love that rustic background behind you. See, I have a green screen and a shot from Gulf Shores, but I love that background of yours.
Yeah, I'm in my cabin, upstate New York. When you and I have spoken before, usually I'm outside, but it's getting a little chilly now. So yeah, I'm inside, and I'm just surrounded by nothing but wood, I guess. Oh, it's pretty warm and inviting.
Oh, very nice.
I want to clarify something, Howard.
Yeah.
I am a terrible, terrible deer hunter.
Okay.
I am a passable upland hunter. I'm a better angler than anything else. I just want to, please, no one listen to anything I have to say about deer hunting other than to learn how not to shoot a deer. So.
Okay. Well, I also know you have a lot of tools around you when you're outside, whether it's a nice old rod that you're playing around with or an axe. And I know you've held some guns before in some of the photos you've shared on Instagram. So I don't know. I was just trying to add to the
No. I appreciate that, but yeah, no. Listen, I truly appreciate that, but I just want to disabuse anyone of the notion that I am a good deer hunter.
All right,
but hope springs eternal, right?
Yes, I mean we can only have hope. We can only have hope. Well, actually, we can always have hope. I think that's it.
There you go.
So I am curious about the background. What kind of wood are we looking at? Looks like different kinds of wood behind you.
Oh gosh, shall I pick up my camera and do a little spin?
Hey, what the heck? Let's do that.
Yeah, there you go. So that's upper clear start. So I am, as I said, sort of surrounded by wood. Excuse the messy place. In my cabin, it's actually a loft cabin. It's a 1-bedroom cabin. The raw wood on the walls is hemlock, of which there's an abundance of up here. And I think pretty much everything else is hemlock and maybe some pine here and there. This cabin was hand built a number of years ago by a pretty accomplished guy. All the windows, of which there are plenty, are all recycled glass, things he got from here and there. So it's kind of a cool place to hang my hat, so to speak. I'm pretty fortunate in that way.
I love that. Just hang out in the cabin in the morning, have a nice cup of coffee, enjoy the surroundings in the evening. The fireplace is going. Maybe a nice adult beverage is in your hand, perhaps a cigar. But one of my favorite memories of a job I had working for a company that I had to leave eventually because they were driving me crazy. But I remember it was the winter in Virginia. A gentleman and I'll remember his name in a minute, but he and I were sharing an apartment. So we had a 2-bedroom apartment. We both worked for the same company. This massive snowstorm. We had the foresight about 6 hours earlier to go to the cigar store. And also he didn't drink for specific reasons, but I bought a nice bottle of single malt whiskey, and I was enjoying it outside, smoking a cigar with the snowfall. And I'm thinking, you get to do that before you head back to Mexico. You perhaps will get to have that experience in that wonderful cabin there.
Yeah, I mean, I do it whenever I can, I guess. I mean, I honestly need to cut down on cigar smoking a little bit, but whatever. It's one of my few just sort of pure present pleasures, if you will. I can just sit there and I have to focus on that and I want to focus on that, and things just, troubles go away and stuff like that. So there's something about it that really satisfies me in that sense. But I probably do it too much, like some other things. So.
Well, don't give up the adult beverage, because I think even enjoying a beverage, whether it's coffee or a nice whiskey or a bourbon, is not too shabby when it's cold outside and that the fireplace is roaring.
Yeah,
But,
no, absolutely. Go on.
no, I was going to say, but I know we didn't come here to talk about just enjoying the winter in upstate New York. Or we don't really have winter here in Las Vegas, though it is getting cold, which is why I have a wool sweater on. It's what I look forward to during the winter time, is wearing wool. I was wanting to chat about, you just got back from a press trip, and I have heard of Tenerife, but I have no idea where it is and what do you do there?
Yeah. Well, Tenerife is one of the islands of the Canary Islands,
Okay.
which are part of Spain, but they are quite south. They're really off the coast of northern Africa,
Yeah.
south or almost parallel to Morocco, I guess. So they have a very, very unique climate.
Mhm.
And the Canary Islands were one of those places for me as a kid, glued in front of my television, my black and white television. That's how old I am. In the 60s, watching National Geographic. And it just got under my skin. And the opportunity came up earlier this year to do this press trip, brought over by Tenerife Tourism, to explore the adventure side of the island. I don't do a lot of press trips, Howard. It's not really my thing, but I jumped at this chance because it was so ingrained in me to knock this one off my list, if you will, or to see it before I die. There are definitely a few places like that, Galapagos being another one, which I've never been in. Anyone listening wants to send me there, please reach out.
Send us there, David. Send us there.
Send us there.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'll do my podcast. You do the writing.
I was talking with Rick the other day, and he's like, yeah. If you get someone to send you someplace, mention me and we'll go. So maybe the three of us.
The three of us, Rick will enjoy
There
that.
you go. Yeah. Yeah. So I jumped at the opportunity, and it was a really interesting, fascinating place, which I absolutely loved. And we can get into the nitty-gritty of the details. But one of the things that was very important to me, because I don't write short articles, and I don't write traditional travel pieces. It's not my thing. I don't do lists and here's the top 10 things to see while you're there. There's not people doing that. So for me, it's important to try and, if I can, connect to or discover the soul of the place. That's what I'm really, really interested in. So I extended my trip. The initial press part of that was 5 days. I extended another 4 days to go into the capital city of Santa Cruz de Tenerife, or Tenerife as Spanish would say, just to try and find that. And I eventually did. And that I think will allow me to write a more interesting piece and really sort of justify a press trip from my perspective.
Okay. How was the invitation packaged for you? Do they, again, in our work, I pursue a lot in terms of having podcasts or having guests on the show. And other times the location pursues us. How did this come about? I mean, I love the fact that this has been on your list, your bucket list, so to speak, since you were a child. I mean, there's a place for me that feels the same way. And but I'm curious, how did this opportunity kind of materialize for you? So that'd be question one. But also, how do you begin to prepare around perhaps the itinerary that the Tenerife tourism is planning for you?
Right. I first got wind of it through an OWAA email blast.
Okay.
That Tenerife Tourism was looking for people. I jumped on that. Immediately got in touch with them. So yeah, I mean, there was honestly a really, really nice benefit to being a member of the organization. And that happens quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sorry, the second part of that question is what kind of research did I do? Or
what was the research leading up to, getting over there, which, by the way, I have to imagine it's not an easy place to get to.
It's not an easy place. Well, it's not an easy place to get to for me where I am now.
Right.
If I was still in the city, I lived in New York City for 25 years, it would have been much easier. There is a direct flight from Newark to Tenerife.
Oh, wow.
And then other than that, you pretty much have to fly through Madrid. I'm sure there are other places you can go, but I think it's most common to go from New York to Madrid to down to Tenerife. And that took a little figuring out to try and find that right flight. And because I wanted to extend my trip, I really couldn't capitalize on that direct flight from Newark, which I think only runs maybe one or two days a week. So it's like I had to drive to Kennedy, and then I didn't want to pay the insane parking rates at Kennedy, so I found an off-site place to park, and then I had to get into.
You're a glutton for punishment.
It's not easy and fun. And then you fly overnight to Madrid, chill out Madrid airport for a couple of hours, then you're there. Anyway, it's all the minute you land at these things, the pain in the ass travel is all forgotten. And that's really the nice thing, because now you're suddenly keyed into a place and it's okay, well, where do I find a car? How do I get to where I'm going? What's this like? This seems kind of cool. So, that stuff. It's a grin and bear kind of situation. But in terms of, for a thing like this, in terms of research or pre-work, again, as I said, I don't do a lot of press trips. I do almost none. And this is just typically the way I work. Even if I'm going on a fishing trip, let's say somewhere, I'm not really researching that much if it's a place I'm going to write about. And I do that because I want no preconceived notions, and I want the place to inform me. So I want to show up as empty as I can, if you will, to let the place fill me.
Okay.
And that's what I really tried to do in this situation. And it did on like the 8th day or so.
Okay. When you are working in a locale and you're spending your time, you're not doing the research as you just described, but you arrive and you're letting the place inform your soul. Is it all happening up here in the head and the heart? Do you have the proverbial notepad that a journalist would carry around? How are you kind of capturing and remembering or the words that you eventually are going to put on paper?
Yeah, I don't really take notes. I will, and there's a couple of reasons I don't do that. Again, every time I take a note, I feel that I'm missing something. I feel that my memory is pretty good, and I like the way that my mind will take in information and sort it for me personally. It knows how to do that. So then I'm able to connect that to hand and get that out, with my pen or typewriter or computer later. I will at the very end of it ask the organizers, can I have the breakdown of the itinerary? Because inevitably that's going to change. And it did in this case a little bit. What we had planned to do, weather wasn't cooperating and things like that. So we shifted here, we shifted there. So if you can provide me the breakdown afterwards, so at least I get all the details right, that's more or less enough for me.
Okay.
Other than that, I want things to mull around my head as much as they possibly can.
Okay. As you are exploring the island during your stay there, especially the first 5 days, which is the organized portion of it, how are you interacting with your fellow journalists who are also there to capture a story or two?
Yeah, in this particular case, this was a fairly large group. It was writers, photographers, and then there were a number of tour operators, I guess, coming in from Europe. There were people from Spain, there were people from Belgium, people from Norway, who are coming in to check out the island, the facilities, and et cetera, what they can offer their clients in their home countries. Listen, inevitably, I mean, we know what this stuff's like. You've been to 1,000 conferences, and you find people that you hit it off with, and whatever that is. And if you're lucky, you're seated by them on your first night at your first dinner, and you kind of that's your little clique for the week, and you hang out with them. And in this case, I got very lucky. We were there to experience the adventure side of the island. So it's hiking up mountains. Tenerife boasts the highest elevation in Spain and the third largest volcano in the world as measured by the base. So essentially, this is a volcanic island. So hiking up to the top of that, road cycling, off-road cycling, parasailing, sea kayaking, paddleboarding, all these things were on the agenda. And I just, on the first day hike, met this woman from Norway, Seth, if you're listening. And she and I were very experienced hikers. Obviously, in a situation like this, there's varying degrees of hiking ability, let's call it.
Right. Yeah.
And she and I were bang on. So we just booked, man. We just kept, and the tour guide's like, can you guys come back? And eventually we had a conversation with them, and they figured out that we knew what we were doing. We're not going to do anything crazy. We just like to walk at a certain pace. So we would walk, someplace and then come back a little bit and then rewalk it. We did this one hike one day that, I don't know, took everybody 3 hours, whatever it was, took us like 45 minutes. And it was a big circle. So we ended back in this little mountain town, and there was a restaurant. So we sat down there and had a beer and ate some tapas and just kind of waited for everybody else to join us. That was pretty cool.
I love.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that's good enough. But I am curious. During the 4 days, was there an experience or two that really just kind of surprised you, or something just was unexpected? Yeah. Whether it was just kind of a stretch for yourself, or like, wow, this is cool.
There were a couple things. First of all, it's an extraordinary environment. It's the biodiversity is incredible, and it will change from pocket to pocket as you go around the island, to the point where we would be walking through this incredible pine forest and coming up to a ridge, and then you see the line of that ridge, and you see pine trees on this side, and the moment they hit that ridge, it's barren. And that has to do with, in this particular case, I think the pine trees were on the southern side of the island, which I guess got very good wind, and maybe a slightly better climate. And I think on the northern side, it was colder and foggier. Plus, the other thing was kind of cool. We'd go up this mountain, and you would see this fog. We'd be standing at this fog rolling in, and it would hit the ridge and just dissipate completely. And so you could literally stand on one side, the other foggy or sunny, which was really kind of cool. Okay. And there are places there, because it's this essentially volcanic island. I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones at all, but there are certainly places that look like Dragonstone, if you will, just these jagged volcanic mountains thrusting out of the ocean. It was very, very cool. And bananas everywhere. The climate and the soil and the water is perfect for growing bananas. And so Tenerife, and I think maybe the Canary Islands in general, certainly supplies all of Spain with bananas, but I think most of Europe as well. So they don't have to come from South America or anything like that. They're just a short hop up the ocean, and you've got pretty good bananas.
Really?
Now, I didn't know that.
But do you prefer those bananas, say, over the Hawaiian variety of the company that shall remain nameless?
I am not a banana connoisseur, so I can't really say, but I will say these were damn good bananas.
All right. I love it.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So I would love to shift to your experience after the event, but I first want to share some photos that you had shared with me, which I think our listeners would really love to see. So if you will indulge me, David, I'd love to maybe share the
Of course.
screen. If you can describe some of the photos that you shared with me and maybe tell a little bit about them if you wouldn't mind.
Mm.
That
Okay.
work? Okay.
Yep.
So this is a little part of the show I'm getting used to doing. I don't usually do this, but I actually interviewed a guy, Victor Kastrov. He was from Bulgaria. I met him via Facebook because he had these wonderful photos of the mountains, and his shtick is he brews cups of coffee wherever he's at.
Oh
And
yeah, you mentioned him.
I was like, I want to interview this guy. So I published this episode a couple of weeks ago, but we were sharing photos from his trip. I thought I like the idea of doing that. So here we are. So I get to do this with my friend. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. And all right. So we should be sharing the first image of that was
So
in the
what
folder.
that so what that is a natural swimming pool. That is, I don't want to say sort of carved out of the volcanic rock, but it's just such a way that the water's a little calm or whatever. Some of our group went down there and swam at 6 in the morning before one of our trips. But very, very cool. And these are all over the island.
Okay. Very good. I don't think I do anything at 6 in the morning other than enjoy a cup of coffee when it's absolutely
Yeah.
quiet. Okay.
Yeah, so this is, I think the first day hike, and forgive me, I'm going to get some of these names wrong. So you just
Okay.
you have to do a little bit of research. We're looking out over the ocean there, and there you can see a little bit of what I was talking about, where that fog is coming in from the north, and then there's almost a line where it just dissipates. It comes to the top of that ridge and then sort of disappears. And you can certainly see that in the mid left.
Okay. What time of the year? This was a couple months ago, right? Or a
No,
couple
this
weeks?
was early October.
It was early
Um,
October. Okay.
Yeah, the island boasts a pretty good climate. So certainly the mountain,
Hmm.
Tiade will get snow in the
Hmm.
winter, but for the most part, it's sort of a subtropical
Okay.
environment, I guess.
Because the young lady's got a short sleeve
Yeah,
t-shirt and
there you
hiking
go.
shorts. Okay.
There you
Like it.
go. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what I was talking about, where we walked through that pine forest
Yeah.
and then it stopped. And that has everything to do with those winds coming out of the north, which was, I thought that was kind of cool. I I maybe I've seen that somewhere. Not as clear as that, I guess.
The shot reminds me of a photo I've seen, most likely on Facebook, of a forest much like this, but the the trees are bent over almost like I would say a
Right.
60, 90 degree angle because where the wind's coming from it's forcing the bend. I don't know. I know I've seen it before. I'm gonna have to go and find
Yeah,
that image.
there's all kinds of places where you see those, I guess,
Yeah.
windblown trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. That's great.
Again, just your base, just your facing shot
And
in Tenerife on one of these hikes. I think that was also the first day hike, which was also interesting because one of the writers, a tour operator actually, she fell and shattered her wrist.
oh wow.
Yeah, so we switched into sort of getting her out of there. We had a good few hours of hiking left, so we improvised a sprint on the spot, wrapped her up, and just helped her get out. I had her hang on to the back of my pack with one hand, and we
Mhm.
just slowly walked out, talking the whole time, just trying to distract her. And then
Sure.
she took advantage of Spanish healthcare, and she had an operation 2 days later, and it was an incredible experience.
Oh, no, and one you will never forget. And I see there's
Yeah,
like a little village down there. It looks like a
exactly.
little pool. I love that. All right. Another shot, some little off to the right.
Yeah, same kind of
Okay.
thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
If the proverbial signs with distances, I love it. And I know that hat. This is the banner hat, by the way, for the show. Let me use that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do a little plug here. One of my very, very good friends has a gin company up here in the Catskills called Isolation Proof Gin. And he encourages me to wear this hat all over the world on every adventure I am. So you'll see it in a few different places. And he supplies me with enough gin to keep me happy and to keep wearing the hat. So
Hey, it sounds like a win-win situation to me. All right.
there you go.
Bananas.
And that was-
Well done.
yeah, I learned about bananas. I really didn't know that much, but it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Very good. More bananas. All right.
More bananas. Lord Howard, we should have edited these a little bit.
Big rock.
This was, yeah, it was very cool. We actually hiked around the back of that, and I think I sent you a little bit of video where you can see the fog rolling in and obscuring it. It was really cool.
All right.
I don't know if you can play a video.
Yeah, I think there's a video.
Again, so that's a very classic, on the north side of the island, what Tenerife looks like. It's a little town there where we went out, basically from the bottom of the town, I guess, the docks. We went out and sea kayaked around those cliffs, and they were just incredible.
That must have been an experience.
Yeah,
More fog.
Yeah.
The flags
flags.
downtown.
I don't know what I liked about that. That was in the capital, and it just was a little. I like the Cristo idea, protecting the top of those.
Yeah. Okay. This is one of my go-tos when I go traveling. I want to see the markets. Lots of nice colors there. Very good.
As I recall, if I recall correctly, this is the African market in the capital, and it was great. It was fruits, vegetables, the classic market, but also just a great place to chill out.
I would be hanging out there with a cup of coffee and just watching.
There you go.
You got some good shoes. You're not wearing your signature boots.
I'm not wearing my signature boots. No. And this is in the capital. And I think I love that I was in the old part of the town and the streets were cobblestone essentially, which I assume is volcanic cobblestones.
Very cool. All right. I think we're going to have a video showing up. There it is.
A little choppy, but this was just heading over to the first hotel and just driving over these mountains, which then we had to cycle later. And it's like, oh, shit.
That's
how easy this is going to be. These were serious. If you are a cyclist looking for adventure, I think Tenerife is a fantastic place to go because there's just every hill you possibly want to do. Certainly there are some flats. It's very popular with cyclists. We saw a lot of them on the roads. I think they do a big race there once a year or so.
Okay.
There you go. So that's the other side of that little rock, and just the weather changed immediately.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And that happened in 2 minutes.
Very
That
good.
was kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And just now back to the miracle of technology. It's you and I again. So tell us about the visit to the town and just kind of hanging out and to help you tap more into the soul of Tenerife.
Right. So Howard, you've done press trips before, and one of the things that's interesting about them is the organizers. They have this one shot and they want to show you everything they possibly can. And I understand that. And the organizers in this case from the Spanish Tourism Board in New York City, or maybe it's Tenerife Tourism Board, I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, they were great, but the people on the ground in particular, the woman who was our lead contact named Raquel Hernandez, she was fantastic. And as you can imagine, she's trying to herd 20 people together that are all doing different things at every time. And, she was great about that, really, really kept her spirits up and kept our spirits up. But one of the challenges, and she and I talked about this a little bit, is you essentially get a taste of everything. And you really don't get to fully experience something. And And I wanted that, and I didn't get that. I was exhausted because like here we're having breakfast and now we're doing this 3-hour hike and now we're having lunch here and now we're doing this paddleboard thing and then we're going for dinner. And I just needed to chill out. So I decided, as I said, to extend my trip
Mm.
and go to the capital, which was great. I had a fantastic Airbnb, which honestly, the dollar goes pretty far there. I think it maybe cost me $60 a night. And I hit the streets. I mean, I did the cathedral the first morning because I do like cathedrals. I hit a museum very quickly, but I got that out of the way. I just wanted to be on the streets. Now, something happened that was kind of interesting or me, or surprised me rather. Um, I found it really hard to connect to people.
Mm.
I'm a reasonably chatty guy, and when you're by yourself, you're compelled to talk to people, and I was interested in talking to people, but I couldn't connect. Much of that maybe had to do with I wasn't used to having dinner at 10 o'clock at night. It was that kind of thing. Like my schedule was just so I would show up to a bar at you know 9 o'clock and it would be empty. And I'd say to the bartender, well, where is everybody? He goes like, yeah, come back at midnight, dude. But they're still sleeping. So I had this disconnect and I started to feel lonely.
Mm.
And I don't often feel that way. And it was feeling lonely, I think, because this was a just a pure vacation, if you will. It's not like I was on a fishing trip or some other kind of press trip where I'm scheduled. There's something I need to do. There's something I need to accomplish. This was all on my own. So I eventually figured out that, all right, I'm just going to sit down and try and get into the rhythm of place. And there was a beautiful park across the street from me. And I would sit there and I would go buy myself a Cuban cigar. And I would just sit on a park bench, I kid you not, for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just watch the people. And that allowed me to now get into the rhythm of the place a little bit. And I mean, it's obvious stuff. I know that. But there were little snapshots of things. There was a small, almost like a symphony orchestra that set up in the park and started playing a variety of songs. And then they started playing a Beatles melody. And there was this little girl who maybe was 3 years old that would just spontaneously burst into dance, and I thought, like, this could be the first time she's ever heard the Beatles. And this is how she's responding. And that was kind of cool. There were these groups of teenage school kids that were walking around, interviewing people about what their profession was.
Mhm.
And that was kind of interesting because they came up and they talked to me and I said, what did you think I was? And it's like, oh, one said professor, one said architect, one said doctor. Like, no, escritor or writer. And that was kind of cool. That was kind of funny. The old couple walking through the sunshine, still holding hands. It was this kind of stuff that really began to creep inside of me. And that allowed me to now calm down a little bit and now talk to people on more of just an easy sort of casual way. I went to a barber shop and I wanted a haircut and a shave. He stayed open for me because I
Oh,
went
wow.
kind of near the end of the day. He stayed open for me for an hour and we just sat there and we talked and we laughed and that kind of stuff. And he gave me, he's like, go to this place for dinner, go at this time of night, that kind of thing. So it was that. And I had a conversation with Raquel, the woman organizing it. And I said, it would be great if there was some way to work that into a traditional press trip where you're now going to give people an extra day and you're going to take them to the capital or whatever it is, and you're going to leave them on their own. I think that's how you're going to get better stories and stories that are going to resonate with somebody. I can entice you to go to Tenerife by saying how fantastic the cycling is, and the cycling is fantastic. But if I can tell you what it's like to sit in a cafe, if I can express that and sit there for 2 hours and just have the luxury of a 2-hour dinner where you have nowhere to go and nothing to do, but just in that moment, be totally present. I think that'll make you want to go to a place again and again and again.
I love that. I love that. And I truly appreciate you sharing that. And I also appreciate, and it's not lost on me, the wonder of sitting on a park bench and just having something to drink, whatever that might be. That was the best part of I was in San Miguel de Allende, and my friends had a business and they were running it, and I would go during the afternoon, go walk out to the centro, the main park, and just sit and watch people. And I really, I've not thought of it as letting the soul kind of embrace you. But just for me, it was just observation. But I think the next time I have a chance to sit in a park bench in a foreign country, just observing, and but also to just truly let the soul of that location kind of seep in. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, David. This is great.
Yeah, there are there are a few things that, I guess I've learned over the years. I lived around the world a little bit. Um, and it's this idea that and it goes back to rather to what we were discussing earlier about how much research and expectations and all that. Um, and I don't do a lot. At this point in my life, I don't care what the great restaurants are that every tourist is going to and all that stuff. And I also recognize that I can't fight a place. I can't bring my expectations. I can't bring this idealized version of what that place is going to be to it. I lived in India for a few years, and I saw this all. And India is a tough place, man. India's going to challenge you. And I realized that I was fighting it a little bit at the beginning, and it was killing me. And I thought, listen, I'm not going to beat this country of 1 billion people and, this modern technology and colonialism and 5,000 years of history and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to win that fight. So I just sat back and said, okay, just come into me, show me what you want to show me. And it wasn't until I was able to do that I really understood India. And I love India. I loved living there, but I just, I couldn't battle it. And I'm not saying you have to battle a place when you're on vacation or something like that, but there is something to be said for just accepting. It's this kind of like, it's like the idea of accepting imperfection, wabi sabi, if you will. It's like nothing lasts, nothing is finished, nothing is perfect, but there is beauty in all of that. And I was really able to find that when I was on this trip. And I don't often find that. And I think that's why I was so excited when I got back. And I haven't written anything yet. That'll happen pretty soon, I hope. But yeah, just this idea of how to find the soul of a place, if you will.
Excellent. David, before we head out, again, I want to thank you for spending the time with us today and me. It's always good to see you and catch up. And I just love you have this knack for bringing the experiences to life. And I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy that as well. And before we head out, if our listeners would like to learn more about you and read your work, pieces of your work, where are the best places for them to go?
Yeah, if you go to my website, which is my name, davidandmcilvaney.com, McIlvaney, which I assume you'll link to, Howard. That would be a good place to sort of read what I've been writing lately. Also my Instagram, if you look my name up on Instagram, or the real DNM, that's usually where I sort of post my thoughts and quick little snippets of things I'm doing. Yeah, so that would be best.
Okay.
Howard, let me say, I think this is the third time we've spoken on your podcast. I absolutely love talking with you, man. I was saying earlier about sometimes you get lucky with that person you sit beside on that first dinner kind of thing. I think you and I met pretty early in Casper, Wyoming, a couple of years ago now. And listen, man, it's been a great friendship. Love seeing you every time one of these conventions comes up. I look forward to seeing you in Chattanooga. So I just want to say thank you for that, man. And thank you for continue this podcast. You really get some interesting people on, and I love giving it a listen. Yeah, that's my gushing at the host. So
all right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and it's always a pleasure to catch up. And I do hope you and I, with Rick, we'll bring Rick along. We can find some place where we can do this all together. I think that
Rick and I were talking Iceland, so maybe if the Icelandic Tourism Board is listening, please consider us.
Right, Iceland. That's right, Icelandic Tourism Board. David McIlvaney, Howard Fox, Rick Says, we've got you covered here. David, thanks again. Look forward to catching up either virtually or in person, or perhaps another podcast. But thank you so much.
No, my pleasure as always, Howard.
Take care.
You too.
All right, we're going to do a quick close, and then you and I can have a final chat.
Cool. Okay.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with David McIlvaney, my good friend from the Outdoor Writers Association of America. I've had the pleasure of meeting David a couple years back in Casper, Wyoming, at our annual conference, and it is always a pleasure to catch up with him and just really to learn about the adventures that he has been on. And today we learned about his latest adventure in Tenerife, and really I love just the idea of going someplace and just getting a feel for the place, the soul of the place. And it's a powerful imagery, and just hearing David talk about the adventure and what it meant to him was very special. Now we're going to provide backlinks to David's website and social sites. As for us, you can find this episode on the website, outdooradventureseries.com. We are also on Facebook and LinkedIn on the Outdoor Adventure Series. We are on YouTube, and of course, you can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Just search for Outdoor Adventure Series. And remember, we love likes, comments, and sharing. Okay, folks, until next time, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we look forward to having you join us on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.